There is a record that should exist, and doesn't. In the summer of 1890, the United States government sent enumerators to every household in the country with the most detailed questionnaire in American history. For the first time, each family received its own individual schedule: name, age, race, immigration status, naturalization details, English language proficiency, whether you owned your home or rented it, whether you had served in the Civil War, whether anyone in your family was deaf, blind, insane, or disabled, whether you were a prisoner, a pauper, a homeless child. 62,979,766 Americans, documented in unprecedented detail. It was also the first census to use machines, punch cards, and an electrical tabulation system invented by Herman Hollerith, a system so effective that his company would eventually become IBM. The most sophisticated record-keeping operation the country had ever attempted. The most detailed portrait of the American population ever assembled. And almost all of it is gone. Today, the surviving records from the 1,890 census fit on 3 rolls of microfilm. Fragments from 10 states, roughly 6,000 names, out of 63 million. The explanation most people have heard is simple. A fire in 1921 destroyed the records. That's what the history books say, the genealogy websites, the library guides. Fire, tragedy, loss, move on. But that's not what actually happened. And the difference between what people are told and what the documents show, that's the reason I'm still thinking about this investigation months after I first opened the archive. Let me walk you through what actually happened, because it involves 2 fires separated by 25 years. 12 years of inaction while records sat deteriorating in a warehouse, an institution that made public promises it had no intention of keeping, and a destruction order signed by Congress on February 21st, 1933. Exactly 1 day before the cornerstone was laid for the building specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of loss. 1 day. But we need to start at the beginning, because what the 1890 census actually captured matters, and most people don't know. The census was taken at a specific, unrepeatable moment. The American frontier had officially closed. The superintendent, Robert Porter, noted in his report that the frontier line had become so broken and penetrated that it could no longer be said to clearly exist. This was the last census before industrialization fully transformed the country. The last snapshot of an America that still had living memory of the Civil War, of slavery, of a continent in the middle of being reorganized into something new. The population had grown 25% in a decade, 50 million to 63 million. Millions of those new Americans were immigrants, Italians, Eastern European Jews, Poles, Russians, Chinese, people who had arrived in a country still raw from a war and were now building something inside it. The 1890 census was designed to document exactly who they were, where they came from, whether they spoke English, whether they had become citizens, whether they owned anything. It was, in short, the single most complete record of who was living in America during the transition years. The window between the old world and the new one, between the Civil War generation and the industrial age. And it existed in one location. Every census from 1790 to 1880 followed the same basic rule. Copies were filed locally, at county courthouses, state archives, backups. The 1890 census broke from that 100-year practice for the first time. 1 copy, Washington, no duplicates. By 1903, a census clerk who reviewed the storage described the records as in fairly good condition. They were in the basement of the Commerce Building, on pine shelves in an unlocked file room. Not a vault, not a fireproof cabinet, pine shelves. Unlocked. The first fire came in 1896. A night watchman noticed flames in the rear of a building where some of the special schedules were kept: the mortality records, the crime data, the records on the deaf and the blind. By the time firefighters arrived, the basement was full of smoke. That material was gone, but the main population schedules, the 63 million names, were safe, still on those pine shelves, still in that unlocked room. For the next 25 years, nothing was done. No backup copies, no fireproofing, no emergency plan. Just requests. Repeated requests from the Secretary of Commerce, from researchers, from genealogists that were acknowledged and then ignored. Then came January 10, 1921. A building fireman named James Foster noticed smoke coming through pipe openings in the basement around 5 in the afternoon. By the time the fire department arrived, the smoke was too thick to enter. Firefighters punched holes in the floors above and poured water into the basement for hours. They kept going for 45 minutes after the fire itself was out. The next morning, Census Director Samuel Rogers surveyed what remained. His assessment: roughly 25% of the records were destroyed outright. Another 50% had suffered serious fire, smoke, and water damage, which means approximately 25%, more than 15 million individual records, were potentially still usable the morning after the fire. Read that again. 15 million names, still there. The morning after. Here is where the story stops being explainable as bad luck or bureaucratic failure. The surviving records were moved to temporary storage, and then nothing happened. For 12 years. No restoration effort, no attempt to copy what remained, no emergency funding. The National Genealogical Society and the Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress directly, warning of organized public pressure if the records were destroyed. Congress responded with categorical assurances. Nothing would be destroyed. Everything would be preserved. The records sat in a warehouse and deteriorated for 12 years. In December 1932, the chief clerk of the Bureau of Census sent the Librarian of Congress a routine list of documents scheduled for destruction. Item 22 read: Schedules, Population, 1890, Original. The librarian was asked to identify any records worth preserving for historical purposes. He identified none. Not a name, not a fragment, not a single page from 63 million American lives. Congress authorized destruction on February 21, 1933. The next day, February 22, 1933, President Hoover laid the cornerstone for the National Archives building, the fireproof facility, specifically designed to ensure that American historical records could never again be permanently lost. They authorized the destruction on the 21st. The building that would have saved the records broke ground on the 22nd. That timing is in the documents. It's not contested. It's just not something that comes up in the standard account. And there's one more detail. A handwritten note found later in a Census Bureau file reads, "Remaining schedules destroyed by Department of Commerce in 1934, not approved by the geographer. Not approved." Someone inside the building marked the destruction as unauthorized after the fact. That note is in the archive. The records are not. Now consider what was actually in those 63 million schedules. The 1890 census was the first to document in real detail the great wave of immigration that would define the 20th century. It captured the children of Civil War veterans on both sides. It recorded the formerly enslaved population with more granularity than any previous census had attempted. It documented the transition years, the exact window when cities like Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia crossed the million-person threshold for the first time. And most critically, it captured the generation born in the 1850s and 1860s, the people who were children during the most dramatic decade in American history. The same generation whose elderly survivors, 40 years later, would be partially interviewed by the Federal Writers Project before that program too was shut down. If you wanted to know who was alive during the transition, who witnessed what was built and what was destroyed, who remembered the old world and tried to describe it to their grandchildren, the 1890 census was the most precise instrument ever created for answering those questions. Every name, every address, every origin, gone. What survives today is almost random. A few streets in Washington, D.C., parts of Perry County, Alabama, fragments from Columbus, Georgia, Jersey City, Cincinnati. The people who happen to live on the streets that survived are documented. The people who lived one block over are not. 63 million Americans reduced to 6,000 names by a sequence of events that each, individually, you could explain away. Together, they're something harder to dismiss. 2 fires, 25 years apart, 12 years of neglect in between. A librarian of Congress who reviewed 63 million names and found nothing worth preserving. A destruction order signed the day before the archives opened. I keep asking myself the same question. The 1880 census survived. The 1900 census survived. The 1910 census survived. The records immediately before and immediately after the most important transition period in American history are intact, indexed, searchable. The census that documented the transition itself is gone. And the decision that made it vulnerable, the decision not to make backup copies, breaking 100 years of precedent, that decision was made before any fire, before any accident, before anyone could have known there would be a loss. Who made it isn't clearly recorded. When it was made isn't clearly recorded. Why it was made isn't clearly recorded. What's recorded is what happened next. If your family came to America before 1900 and you've tried to trace them, you already know this gap. You jump from 1880 to 1900 and hope the name matches. You look for ship manifests, city directories, church registers, anything to fill 20 years of silence. That silence wasn't an accident of history. It was built. And here's the part that nobody talks about when they tell the 1890 census story. The genealogical community knew. They fought back, loudly. Between 1921 and 1933, the National Genealogical Society sent repeated formal protests to Congress. The Daughters of the American Revolution, an organization with serious political weight in Washington at the time, threatened a nationwide campaign. Individual researchers wrote letters, filed petitions, showed up at hearings. Every time, the response from Congress and the Bureau of Census was the same. The records are safe. Nothing will be destroyed. We understand the historical importance. Those assurances were given in writing. They're in the archive. You can read them today alongside the destruction order that followed 12 years later. What strikes me about this isn't just the gap between the promise and the action. It's the patience of it. Whoever was making these decisions, and the record is frustratingly vague about who specifically was driving the process, they waited. They waited through the protests, through the petitions, through the formal hearings. They gave the assurances, bought the time, and waited until the noise died down. Then they put item 22 on a routine list. A routine list of documents for destruction, sent from one bureaucrat to another with a request to identify anything worth keeping. He identified nothing, and 63 million Americans were gone. That silence wasn't an accident of history. It was built, step by step, over 40 years, by a sequence of fires, inaction, denials, and a destruction order signed the day before the building opened that would have ended this story differently. The records are gone. But the sequence that destroyed them is documented in the National Archives, available to anyone willing to read through it. I've read it, and I keep coming back to item 22 on that list. Schedules, population, 1890, original. The librarian identified no records as permanent. 63 million Americans, and the Librarian of Congress found nothing worth keeping. If you made it to the end of this, you're exactly who this channel is for. Every week, I go into the archives, the newspaper records, the documents that got filed and forgotten, and I bring back what the standard account leaves out. Not theories, not speculation. The actual sequence of what happened and the questions that sequence raises. Subscribe to @Redacted Century. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next investigation. And check the description. Every source referenced in this video is linked and publicly available. The records they kept are in the archive. The records they didn't keep tell a different story.